Yo, what up guys, it's Flark, and welcome to my next pre-patch guide, this time for Fury Warrior. I don't know if you guys have noticed a pattern so far. Maybe you've been keeping up with my guides, and you see that they are all the zug melee. Yes, of course, because who's going to watch a demo lock guide by Flarkness? They don't run at a kill target and press all their buttons until they die. That's not how demo lock plays. That would be a terrible guide from me, right? So, of course, yes, I'm staying in my lane come Dragonflight. I will be playing all the melee, trying to make useful guides on all the melee. You know, I still repping this Dominant Gladiator title for ages ago in my Warrior. I do feel like I should be able to get Glad on these, and thus these would probably be the classes that I can provide accurate information outside of DK. So no Boomkin guides for me. I will leave those to the more skilled, of course. But yeah, hopefully this helps in my pre-patch guides. Very important. There's a combination of Shadowland stuff and Dragonflight stuff right now, so I'll lump it all together in this pre-patch guide to give you guys the most power that you can get during this 1 month period, but also really focus on the talent trees because, you know, that's what's going on into Dragonflight, and that's what we really care about. That's the stuff we're going to lay a foundation, build upon it, and go into the next expansion strong. So we'll be looking at these talent trees, finding synergies, building an awesome build, which I'll link in the description below, blah, blah, blah. But thank you guys for watching these. Way more people than I thought for these extra guides. So come Dragonflight, I promise I will flesh out these class guides and get you guys Gladiator going into the next season. Okay, I gotta stop talking. Here we go. Character, right? Character stats, itemization, you know, all that good stuff. Let's actually bring that Legendaries back up because we're gonna need it. So, stat weights. Haste verse. There you go. a lot of classes right now tend to use those. Those are good stats. Haste first, Fury is no exception. And then similarly, they'll use some crit. We have some crit modifiers in our talents from Spear and from a Bloodthirst package that I'll get into. So crit ends up being pretty good and better than Mastery, especially now that we can still run Necrolord and Spear at the same time. Getting to that soon. You have a ton of Mastery from your Necrolord Covenant. So you're going to use Verse and Haste as your main two stats, then some crit for sure, and then not so much Mastery, and that's how you build your class. Remember, PvP gear always has all the Verse you need. There's some Verse. That's a tier set. There's some Verse, right? So very simple to get Verse. Then you just have to find the pieces with also Haste on them. You should be able to do that. I'm certain that you can. So there you go. That's stats, very easy. Let's take a look at the Legendaries. That's important. Of course, you get the Unity for Necrolord. Double spoiler, but yes, that's a Covenant I'm running for this dual Covenant action. So much fun in this pre-patch, of course. I'm running Reckless Defender. This is probably not the general pick. That would be Signet of the Tormented King. So let me show you this right now. When you activate Rec, Avatar, or even Bladestorm if you talent into that, but you have to go either way, so that's not quite as good as it used to be. But if you activate Rec or Avatar, you get one of the other abilities, which is a lot of burst cooldowns being added to your burst cooldowns. So there's a reason why that's so good. We'll talk about that even more in the talent tree section. I've been using Reckless Defense because you get Rec back up faster, which does an enormous amount of damage, but also because they buffed Enraged by giving you a lot of talents that modify it. So getting Enraged cooldown, Enraged regen's cooldown to be very low, which Rampage Strikes can easily do. Ends up making you very, 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 very tanky, especially when you're playing with a healer. It's like you're not a kill target, especially when paired with all the other survivability options that Fury has, which we'll talk about. So right, Reckless Defense if you want to be a little tankier, and Recklessness does a lot of damage, so it's kind of like a sustain legendary. But if you're more about that all-in burst, of course it's Signet, right? You press one burst cooldown, you get another burst cooldown, you put them at the same time, and you do a lot of damage. Cool, that's awesome. All right, so we've got our stats, we got our legendaries. Now you're going to use either Badge or Insignia. Badge is burst heavy, Insignia is sustain heavy. I just don't have the Insignia yet, obviously, because I'm making 6 guides at the same time here, but you can get one really easily by buying it. Insignia is for sustain, badges for burst. So you got two-handed weapons with Celestial Guidance and Sinful Revelation as the enchants, and the end. There you go. That's how you build a character. I've been over this in 5 guides, but it's not fair to assume that people have watched the other ones, so there you go again. That's how you build a character. That's how you build Fury Warrior. Let's get into the good stuff, though. Okay. So this is what is the meat of the pre-patch right now, is this screen right in front of you. So of course, the first 5 talents in almost everybody's trees are auto-pick. They're either core abilities that you can't go without, or they literally lead to all the talents that you need, right? So Fury is absolutely no exception. Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, these are Enraged Regen, that's your wall and your rotational abilities. So yeah, of course you pick them. Then this is what I was talking about. Enraged Regen, right here, lasts 11 seconds. It's very powerful, gives you a ton of healing, damage reduction, but you can actually buff it further. And it's not too hard to get because you kind of have to fill out this top row, pointing at my computer screen as if you can see that, this top row to obviously go down farther in the list. And this is really good talents right here. You can see this is the survivability package. Enraged Regen is the wall, 10% damage reduction near perma because you can enrage so frequently. And then buffing Enraged Regen to make it give you an insta-heal. So if you use it in a stun at low health, you get a heal and you get the wall in the stun, then you come out of the stun and you heal yourself with Bloodthirst. That's actually really good synergy because this is usable in stuns. Not only now can you just like wall off the end of their burst, but you get a little boost of health to help wall off the end of your burst. If you've seen like Dark Pact from Warlocks, any defensive that you can use in a stun, all of a sudden like triples its value because that's when people are trying to kill you, of course, right? So lasting longer gives you more Bloodthirst heals, gives you a longer wall, and of course when you pair it with my legendary, this is up all the time. And now you know why I like that legendary. It's fun. So have fun being immortal if paired with a healer, you know, a priest, Ardrid, fun stuff. Okay, so now you get Rampage, which is another rotational ability. That's a no-brainer. So let's talk about some of the things that are a little bit more important, like why I went down all the way through this line, right? Because the capstone talents are the most important choices, and there are a lot of good capstone talents here. I mean, this does obscene damage, right? You've got a longer wreck. That's a lot more addition to your burst window. I ended up going with the 4-set from Shadowlands. Got used to it, honestly. But having wreck procs that still empower, right? You can choose between Reckless Abandon and Anger Management. You choose Reckless Abandon. So what this does effectively, especially when paired with my legendary that gets wrecked back up, this gives you so much sustained pressure like it had in Shadowlands and so much sustained healing like it had in Shadowlands that you're kind of like recreating the might of Shadowlands Fury. Like some of the good classes want to move on from Shadowlands, but Fury was amazing at the end of Shadowlands. So you're like, wait, can I recapture that magic? And it turns out you can. You can even expand upon it. As you see, I have Spear and Banner. We're going to talk about that, obviously, but anyway, so I went down to Capstone that gives you 4 seconds Wreck proc, then buffs Wreck, because we know how insane that is for playing with it for 2 seasons of Shadowlands. And then I wanted to sneak over to Odin's Fury, because this thing does a lot of damage, applies a bleed that's also buffed earlier in the talent tree. And that is kind of like your Recklessness burst package. So every time you wreck, you get the big crushing blows, you start spamming damage, then you proc a wreck, do the exact same thing, you have tons of rage generation, you can get your Recklessness back up faster. Yeah, very good. Okay, so now you have Odin's Fury, which, like I said, is just an AoE ability that applies a bleed and generates rage. It does a ton of damage, it's super fun. Yeah, we love Odin's Fury. Then you have to get Wreck overall. So these middle talents are all kind of like either extremely potent talents from Shadowlands, like Frenzy, that gives you a ton of haste, and haste is your best stat, or they're just rotational abilities or your offensive cooldown, like Wreck and Rampage. So it's very clear that whenever you look at a Fury Warrior build, they'll probably have this middle section filled out, because it would be hard to convince somebody not to take Recklessness, right? So yeah, that's part of it. Now you've got this Raging Blow, Slaughtering Strikes. This, for every subsequent Raging Blow, makes your next Raging Blow hit even harder. Again, probably don't even have to explain why that's good. You get Raging Blow charges back like crazy from talents that reset the cooldown, plus you have 2 charges. You could even have 3, but I didn't do that because when I played, I never ran out of crushing blows. It's probably because of the synergy between the Conduit and the talent that resets it, but effectively you just press this button over and over and it does more damage. Yay! The mind of a Fury Warrior. You know, if I press the same button multiple times and then also again and then a lot of more times, it will do a lot of damage and kill my enemy. It's crazy how these Fury Warriors are able to figure that out. Okay, but yeah, Slaughtering Strikes, very good. Good stuff. All right, so now we have this survivability package. We've explained that. We have the Wreck Burst package. We've explained that. We have the core mechanics of Fury Warrior package right in the middle. We've explained that. And Odin's Fury does a lot of damage. So what about this left and right side? Great question. So over here is the Bloodthirst package. And Bloodthirst doesn't end up doing that much damage, but there is an Azurite trait. And this is very fun. Cold Steel Hot Blood. This used to be BIS, IS, like super best in slot perma for Fury Warrior back in BFA. Again, this is one of those crit modifiers you have in addition to Spear that increases your crit strike damage. That ends up making crit a pretty solid stat because crit's already fine. You want those big hits, of course. You want those big crushing blows. And now you get even more value because you get this this gushing wound. Wow, we remember how good that was. That leeches health, it's healing damage, right? And then you can actually get your Bloodthirst crit way higher, so you can proc this all the time, which is great because again, it works with those crit modifiers. Right here, of course, in Blood Craze, the very next talent. And then even further, you can increase the bleed damage of that gushing wound and of Odin's Fury, which is right down here, of course. So you have like this interesting Bloodthirst package that gives you healing, damage, crit modifiers, and buffs some of your other effects that are down the line here, like Odin's Fury. So. I skipped over one that's pretty wild. While enraged, your auto attacks can no longer miss. This is actually a huge thing. I'm not even sure if people know how huge this is, but auto attacks miss a lot, and white damage does a significant portion of Fury Warrior's damage because of all the haste and all the attack speed modifiers. So making it so they can no longer miss means your uptime is heavily, heavily rewarded when you have this. So wow, what a great talent. And of course, you have one of the mechanics of Fury means its execute isn't a rage spender, rather a rage generator. You've got your Raging Blow 2 charges, and here you go. Instantly reset its own cooldown. That's why you keep pressing it over and over. Making your abilities do more damage. Shocker. Yeah, that's really good. Now you have Raging Blow doing even more damage. You can see all the Raging Blow modifiers are starting to creep up when you grab Cruelty and Wrath and Fury, right? So these things start building up those modifiers, and Raging Blow has a 30% chance to instantly reset. You see? So you're getting the Crushing Blow modifiers, you're getting the Wreck modifiers, and then you're resetting the cooldown over and over, which then helps you stack Slaughtering Strikes, which compounds that damage, and... Right. Now you see why this is good. Now you see why Fury is good. Now you see why the build's good. Now you see why you're loving it, okay? You're loving it. Go down in the description below, copy and paste if you want to try it out. If you have any... awesome suggestions for how to make it even better. Believe me, this is a theory craft session. This is a pre-patch. This is a perfect time to all join forces, join heads, join brains, and create something spectacular. But yes, my personal build involves every Crushing Blow modifier, every modifier down here for Wreck, and then another Crushing Blow modifier, resetting Crushing Blow, and just making yourself do never-ending damage by pressing 2 over and over and over again. I'm winning. I'm winning the game right now, actively as we speak. Incredible. Right, so okay, so now we have the General Warrior talents. You got both the stances. This allows you to switch. Warriors have been begging to have their stances back for a long time. They get their wish. DK's not yet, but personally I don't really enjoy them, but Warrior stances were pretty imperative to the class. I think it's good to have them back in the game. So of course, if you need to be defensive, you go D stance, and if you need to be offensive, you go Berserker stance. Not too hard to decipher. Impending Victory is a great option that we saw at the end of Shadowlands. It does so much healing, and you can even run a Conduit right now that makes it do more healing, which I'll talk about. Get some movement speed modifiers. Rampage, giving you Fury back, gets you into your next Rampage. That's very good with Slaughterhouse. We'll talk about the PvP talents at the end, I promise. And then you just have core abilities, right? Intervene. If you play Warrior, you know how good this is. Intervene is a great utility tool for your teammates. Rally, same thing, utility. Spell Reflect, same thing, utility. And now it actually reduces magic damage you take over the 5-second duration rather than just until you reflect a spell. So that actually got a sizable buff. Fear, that's your CC, right? I mean, these are all like Stormbolt, that's your CC. So you're kind of seeing these are kind of fundamental core aspects of Warrior that you're not really going to get off of. You're not going to take off Stormbolt or Fear, especially now that you can run Stormbolt and Impending Victory at the same time. Very big survivability option for them. Then you have a passive heal. You've got some increased armor for physical damage reduction to pair with your magical damage reduction now that you can get from Spell Reflect. That's kind of nice. Dropping the cooldown of Raging Blow is very good. This is also your kick. Pretty wild. You can just rotate it a little faster. This is insanely good because you just get more strength from more armor and you have more armor, blah, blah, blah. Bitter Immunity is an incredible wall. Just another instant heal, which can pair with Enraged Generation and get everything off of you, which includes Unholy Diseases, Rogue Poisons, to get that wound poison off you so your heals can be more. Curses are actually pretty impactful now that Lock is looking tremendous. You get double time. The fact that you can have this Impending and Stormbolt as a warrior's wet dream. You have 2 charges of charge, and it reduces its cooldown. Mobility, very good. All right, now finally we get to, right, so you can run Spear. So you get some critical strike chance here and some critical strike damage of Execute, which is, again, another crit damage modifier. As I said, crit is not a bad stat for you at all. But then you get Spear. Now, this was the Covenant ability in Shadowlands for anybody who skipped that miserable expansion. But, yeah, if you add a Covenant ability to a talent, it's generally going to be a near auto pick, especially when you can pair it with your Necrolord Covenant ability, right? And of course you get that from having Necrolord in one of the Shadowlands zones or in rated PvP right now during this pre-patch period, right? So you can actually get both those Covenants at the same time, and I'm sorry about the little cut there. There was some background noise, so I needed to cut it out. But anyway, right, so that's really good. You got Spear and a Necrolord at the same time, so what do? You put them in a Spear, and then you pop all your offensive cooldowns, and now your crit damage is modified, and your mastery is modified, and you already have a ton of haste modifiers and a ton of haste, and you just nuke them during that window, and then do it all again with all of your sustained damage. Since you never run out of Crushing Blow charges, you never run out of modifiers, and you're always nearly enraged from Rampage, so that's Fury Warrior. You also get this little auto attack damage increase and this auto attack speed increase, which is great considering how much damage your auto attacks do, as we talked about. And that is your talent trees. So good stuff. Again, if you have awesome ideas, I'd love to hear about them in the comment section below, but this build will probably treat you just fine. For your PvP talents, you still use your MS. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. Slaughterhouse, that's an auto pick. And then I just use the Enraged bonus in PvP with the Raging Blow extending that. Since we have perma Raging Blows, it permanently extends your rage as much as possible, and then Battle Trance is a massive heal. With all the stamina that we have going into this pre-patch, this can heal for hundreds of thousands a game, so cool. Covenants, final. We already talked about it, but yes, it's Necrolord. I'm an Emini. Probably still run Plague Divisor, but it super doesn't matter. Emini Pestilent actually ends up just doing a pretty decent amount of damage. You can see this Puzzle Eruption. That's my second damage. It's pretty burst heavy. It's fun to use. It also heals you. Stupid pick, but again, it doesn't matter. Just put on the Necrolord Covenant and grab some of these fun conduits like Wreck lasting longer. We know how valuable that is with all the Wreck buffs. You can make your Enraged regen even a shorter cooldown. And you get more strength during banner. And there's Indelible Victory again, which makes your Impending Victory heal you for even more than it was already going to. And that is Fury Warrior in a nutshell, my friends. Again, I really want to hear people's thoughts on this. I actually think this is going to be tier 1 going into Dragonflight as well, but I think maybe instead of playing Ret Warrior only, they might play some other melee cleaves, like maybe TSG again. I've been trying to make that work for a long time. I think this might be that time, so look forward to that. And again, thank you guys for the crazy reaction to all these videos. I'm impressed and shocked how many people actually care about watching them, so thanks. Seriously, that's humbling. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the next one. I gotta complete my whatever trifecta ×2 of all the Zug melee. Have a great pre-patch, guys. See ya.